Hello, everybody. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is Election Edge, broadcasting 6 o'clock on the East Coast, 3 o'clock on the West Coast. Happy to have you with us live. And I have a special guest with me today, someone who's been following Donald Trump and elections for a long time, been reporting for us for years. Joe Visconti, welcome to Election Edge. Boy, do we have an exciting show tonight.
I'm excited.
Hey, listen, Joe. The big news, okay, and we can get to all the controversy surrounding things, but obviously it was a momentous day in the United States today. Two what I call political prisoners and others were returned. It was actually quite a few prisoners that came out of Russia. It's not just the two most notarized, but there was a large number. So that was very good news today. The administration took some credit for that, rightfully earned, threw a dig at Trump, not necessary. And then simultaneously, while that was happening, the stock market really cratered today. So we'll get into those stories a little bit later, but we did want to start the news out that way. Joe, there's no question about it. This race has tightened significantly since Kamala Harris came on board. Polling right now has the race Trump up by about 1.2 points. Cook Report has him up by 1.3. Real Clear Politics 1.2. An aggregate, Scott Rasmussen has him up 5, but a daily cost poll, which is a far left-wing radical organization, they've got him up, Kamala Harris up 4. So aggregately, when you add them all together, John McLaughlin, Trump's personal pollster, has Trump +2. Joe, right now it's painting a very tight race. You have probably 6 swing states, but despite all of the media exuberance, just the sheer constant praise of Kamala Harris, Trump, by aggregately measuring these polls, is still up 1.2. I got a gut feeling, Joe, you see this Trump might be a little bit further ahead than that.
Well, you have to expect it's summertime, first of all. So polling is always different this summer. A lot of primaries are coming up in a week and a half, Connecticut, all across the country. And so I'm helping a couple of campaigns out. We can't find anybody that wants to volunteer. People aren't paying attention. So, the numbers for Kamala, of course, it was such a downer to have Biden there, and the party was so depressed. I don't blame the poor Democrats. It was horrible. So anybody, I think if they just put anybody living walking in there, they would have shot to the top. Plus all of the news media just fawning over her, and it's a natural tendency. But I think the polls themselves are that most of them are suspect. Rasmussen is usually very, very close to what's really happening. But I think it's a swing state. So if you do the national poll, Kamala wins like Al Gore won, like Hillary Clinton won, and the popular vote. So it really is the swing states. I know we're going to get into those numbers and what Trump was doing, what we think he's doing now. But all in all, they've got a bump. There's excitement. They were basically the Democrat Party was dead. There was no way they were going to win the House, the Senate. They were going to lose everything. So they had the worst case scenario happen to them. And so next week, I expect their convention to give them even more push and more fawning and more Kamala laughing and giggling at the microphone, all happy. She does look good when she smiles. Got a great smile. And she doesn't say anything. There's no content. So there will be the time for content, most likely in September. Things will get back to where they really are going to be, which I think will show Trump up 2 or 3 points.
Well, it's interesting because, when I was going through these individual numbers here, I've got Cook Political Report, he's up 1.3. The Hill, aggregately, up 1.2. Real Clear Politics has Trump up 1.2. McLaughlin, his own personal pollster, up 2 points. And like I said, Rasmussen's +5. Daily Kos has Harris +4. I don't believe that Daily Kos poll. Scott Rasmussen has been accurate. But aggregately, I think what's happened is this. Harris has cut Trump's lead by about 2 points. And I think it would be hard to argue that point. She has picked up a couple points with blacks. She's picked up a couple points with women. Now, she's picked up maybe additional points with Hispanic voters, but then I get contrary data, and I'm going to dive into that in a little bit. So everybody talks about everything she has gained. What they're not mentioning is Donald Trump took a lead, which already had him rural voters, and that lead is expanding. He's like plus 30 now in rural voters. Another thing that the Democrats are very fearful of, based on their policies, is working class voters. And you notice I didn't break that down demographically, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever, but working class Americans are going towards Donald Trump. And another thing that's happened, Joe, and I don't want to call it the chickification of the Democratic Party, but a lot of young men, both white and black, they don't like what they see in the Democrats, and young people are moving aggressively towards Donald Trump. So what Kamala Harris may be picking up in the women's vote, boy, I got to tell you what, Joe, this is the odd thing of this. The Democratic Party is based on identity politics, pure and simple. And now we're not having any more referendum on Joe Biden. That's over. We're not having a referendum on Donald Trump. We're basically having an identity politics election. People being put into their groups. The messaging and the targeting is going to that specific group, and we'll see how it all plays itself out. But yes, this bump is not unexpected because the Democrats were flat on their back. Now, I think the mainstream media has really glorified Kamala Harris, and then she's faced no criticism whatsoever. Joe, she does not give interviews unless it's of the most friendly nature. She hasn't given a policy speech. So when is she going to come out of literally the shadows? Is it going to be at the Democratic convention? Is it going to be when she picks her vice president? But what's it going to take to get Donald Trump's opponent to come out and speak about issues and, what her policy positions are?
I think she's just going to do interviews during a debate. What they did to Joe Biden for years, hiding him in the basement, making sure he was not at the microphone ever, hardly ever as the president, they're going to do to her. They're going to continue this for the next 2.5 months and just keep her out there, like I said, smiling. Every clip you'll see on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, she's up there. The clip away to Kamala was in Detroit or whatever, Atlanta, and she's smiling. She's, like I said, she's got a great smile. She's happy. She's cheerful. And this is the cover, the misdirection that Democrats need. They need this to be about race. They need this to be about women. They need this to be about abortion, and they need this to be about Kamala and strip away the last 4 years as though they didn't happen. Joe Biden's gone. She's not responsible, and she's pivoting on every issue. I was just watching The Five earlier, and they're talking about, she can do whatever she wants now. Just reinvent herself. Everything she stood for her entire life, she no longer stands for, and she'll say anything. And of course, the money's coming in, the excitement's coming in for the complete Democrat Party at every level. We're so dead in the water. They were going to lose every race in America. And so this will not last. The public is not going to, it's summer. Like I said, people are busy. They're at the beach. They're on their boats. They're vacationing. And they're seeing what's going on, but they're not really engaged yet. Everyone knows Kamala, and I think she'll get a bump and she'll stay up there. But eventually, only in the debates, I think we'll ever see her answer a direct question. It'll be just one word or 3 or 4 words heading onto the plane or running to a cab or a SUV or whatever. And like she did the other day, just turn, we'll see. So they're not letting her speak. She can't speak. It's word salads. One more word salad and she won't make it. Every word salad, the polls will go down 0.5 point.
Well, one thing I want to point out to all our viewers and listeners around the globe is at this point in the 2020 election, Joe Biden had a fairly sizable lead on Donald Trump. And now, again, let's just take a 1.2%, call it a 1-point advantage for Trump right now. That means that Donald Trump is performing 6 to 7 points better against Harris right now than he did against Joe Biden at this identical point in the 2020 election. And when we had multiple swing states decided by a few thousand votes, tens of thousands of votes, actually. I mean, it really bodes well for Trump, but at the same time, the Harris momentum is real. So the question we have to ask ourselves tonight, is this what I call this Harris high, this bump that's come out? Is it going to settle down once people realize what her policy positions are? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But I really think, Joe, that once the interviews start and the policies come out and Trump's policies, Trump can actually say that famous Ronald Reagan line, were you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And working class people will say, yes, I was better off under Trump. But now, obviously, all the fangirls, the pom-pom girls, etc., the identity politics, they're going to be voting for Harris. So, Joe, one thing is definitely occurred here is the election is tighter. We always knew, well, we expected it was going to be a tight election up until Joe Biden fumbled in the debate. Then it really literally looked like Trump was heading for a blowout landslide victory. But we are where we are right now. And look, over the course of really now about a month, Joe, look how things have changed in this election.
Well,
So people that are
they have.
saying, go ahead.
I think they have and they haven't. I've been spending a lot of time on social media in the last 48 hours, and I put up a video of Kamala. It was only 20 seconds of her saying with Lester Holt years ago, he said, "You haven't been to the border." She said, "I haven't been to Europe either." And you've probably all seen it. I posted that on Instagram, and I don't have a large following on Instagram. Within 3 days, I had 30,000 views on that short video. 98% of the people were not friends or associated with my account. It's wildfire, which is the border. And this is the thing they're trying to cover. That border equals salt in the wounds to everyone who can't afford to live and buy things. That's not going to go away. And it's going to start happening in September, right after Labor Day, when again, we talked about this every year. You got to start filling up the oil tank and the heating bills. So we're going to go from electric bills with air conditioning to heating bills. It's not going away. And the other thing I'd like to talk, I know we have this on a subject matter, but I've been on TikTok a lot also. People don't do it, but the young are on it so much. And I'll tell you my findings later when we hit that subject of Trump in Chicago yesterday at the Black Journalist Convention. And things aren't what they appear. I don't think there's been a lot of movement on those who support Trump. I think there's just been more excitement on those who thought their party was over and their political lives as Democrats were over.
Yeah, no, Trump he has stayed remarkably consistent, hanging around that 47 to 49% range. And Joe, I'm going to submit this to our view. I mean, Trump's base is solid. As a result of Harris coming in, has anyone really said, well, I was going to vote for Trump, but now that Harris is in, I'm going to switch my vote to her? I haven't seen any evidence of that whatsoever. What I have seen evidence of, Joe, is people who were not going to vote for Joe Biden have now given her a second look and said, well, I will vote for Kamala Harris, which is where the tightening in this race came from. And, we'll talk about this after the break, but I will tell you this, that tightening has come at Robert F. Kennedy's expense. Okay, I mean, there's no doubt about it. His numbers have plummeted since Biden got out of the race and she got into the race. Why is that? Well, you had this group of what they call double haters, Joe. These are people that would never vote for Trump, didn't want to vote for Biden. They didn't like either candidate. So now that Biden steps out, Harris has actually picked up a good chunk of Kennedy's support. So at the end of the year, December of 2023, Kennedy was about 15%. Before Joe Biden dropped out, he was 10 to 12%. Now Kennedy's numbers are floating down between 5 to 7%, probably closer to 5. So, I mean, she has really taken a chunk out of his hide, and that's where it's come from. Jill Stein, Cornel West, hanging at about a point apiece, but they're not on the ballot in every state. So, that's been the net effect, Joe, of what's happened. She has picked up some of that Kennedy support. But again, I want to do this. We're going to take a short break right now, but when we come back, I'm going to play, and we've played it on a couple shows. Joe, you talk about something for social media, TikTok. You're going to be able to post this. This is a Dave McCormick who's running for Senate in Pennsylvania. His ad, which clarifies Kamala Harris's position. So we're going to go to break. And in our production room, Madam Producer, if you could key up that Dave McCormick ad after commercial, we'll run that. See you in shortly.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store, a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most precious assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid. What people
yes.
To reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation. We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it?
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
Joe, before I get into it, it's sort of shocking. And folks, real quick plug here. Gold was at $2,500 an ounce today. So get a hold of Dr. Kirk Elliott. They have a great company. They're one of the largest gold and silver dealers in the country. And we had a great relationship with them for years. All right, Joe, those are some pretty shocking positions right there. I mean, banning fracking, banning offshore drilling, felons voting, health care for all, Green New Deal, and on and on and on. Those policy positions, they are running away from those positions, trying to sprint to the center. Is it going to work, Joe Visconti?
No, it's not going to work. Again, it's summertime. Primaries are coming. Kids are going back to college. So, the events I think that are going to be coming up are Hamas protests in all the colleges. 2 weeks, you go back to Yale. 2 weeks, you go back to Columbia or Stanford or wherever you are in America. And I think right after the Democrat convention in Chicago, you're going to see those riots, those burnings, and whatever happening on the college campuses, because she's going to start to slide, and she'll be put in a position, Kamala that is, to start to answer the things about the Middle East. And I think that's going to be a factor that's coming out. That will open a door for her to have to answer questions, and the media will be stalking her about that. And she can't do what she did. See, the thing is, the history of everything she's done, if you know it and you're conservative or normal American, you see it, you know it, you understand it. But then when the media and all of their power amplify her new stance, as though nothing happened and Biden's gone and she didn't do anything, those people are just going to vote for lies. And you can't change that. But I think it's a swing state. That's why I love this ad. It's a swing state election. Those people in Pennsylvania didn't forget. Nevada is huge for Trump right now, and she's never going to climb up there again. We know Virginia's still in play. And I just think the questions are going to come out. And the people will settle down, and it's going to, again, be the economy, stupid. After you spend all your money vacationing in the summer, whatever you can for the kids, and they got to go back to school, and all those costs keep piling up, she'll be put on the hot seat. The Democrats will continue to hide her, but eventually she'll have to come out.
Well, it's interesting, Joe, because the two issues that are the leading issues that most Americans feel strongly about are the economy and the border. And on the border, 62% of Americans feel that she's done a poor or a fair job. And of those 62%, they aggregately 48%, almost half the people surveyed, think Kamala Harris did a very poor job managing the border. How can you argue with that? 10 million people came across. And she's sitting there saying, well, if I'm president, I will sign that bill that Donald Trump was against. Oh, really? That bill allows 5,000 illegals a day to come into the country. Of course you'd sign that bill. That's what your policy was. And then on the economy, Joe, we got news out today, put the Dow Jones down over 600 points, about 2%. We got news today that claims for unemployment insurance are hitting a one-year high. In other words, people, they submit a claim for their jobless benefits, and those are at a one-year high. Now, we still have unemployment at 4.1%, but as a lot of people know, a lot of people have 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs just to make those ends meet. And then you take that with the crippling 20% inflation that has happened under the Biden-Harris administration, and that's what's fueling the economic anxiety that a lot of Americans are facing. So those issues, as people start settling in, I think you're right. Inflation has come down, but its prices are not coming down.
Yeah.
They are remaining
and they never
elevated. And they never do.
You see that with oil and gas. It goes down to $100 a barrel, and you don't see it at the pump. It doesn't happen. It's late. Everybody knows it. So I think at the end of the day, what's going to happen is, again, the border is nothing more than salt in the wounds of everyone who can't afford things, watching these people come in, and they're going on Social Security. They're going on our safety nets. And that's why the Hispanic vote and even the Black vote, they've been watching that. They're trying to erase that from history, almost like Google was trying to erase the Trump assassination videos. And when you Google Trump assassination, you go to Kamala Harris. This is the interference that they tried to do last week. They said it was an accident. That's what Google said. But more and more, they want to erase from the memory the general public's anger and inability to pay their bills, and try to somehow push the argument. It's almost like a family fight. You bring up something from the old days, and how about you? You did that, and then you did that. It's nothing but misdirection, distraction. And at the end of the day, you still have to realize that you have to buy groceries. You got to buy clothes for the kids to go back to school. Credit cards, again, are maxed out. Bankruptcies are going up. Foreclosures. It's all piling up because it's been too many years after COVID of not being able to get back on your feet. And so the border becomes something that and you'll see the Trump ads coming out soon where they intentionally, didn't finish the wall. They intentionally remained in Mexico. They intentionally made all these Trump policies that were good to stop immigration, and they intentionally did it, and then offered a quick fix at the end, closed the door about 20%, maybe, just to make it look like they didn't do it and blame Trump. It's such kindergarten, nah, the boo-boo, you're on the kind of recess line when you're in school. And the politics has reached that ridiculous level, but I have faith that the American public can't afford anything, and that's not going away. No magic is going to put money, free check from COVID. There's no magic that's going to put money in American general public's pocketbook right now to get them out of their jam. The only hope they have to get out of their financial jam is Trump in their mind, and they still believe in the miracle of Trump economy.
Well, let me talk to you, Joe, about the swing states that you just mentioned, and let's sort of break it down a little bit here. Donald Trump has been doing pretty well in Pennsylvania. Now, polls have been mixed, so it's hard to read it. But when Kamala Harris comes out and tries to change her position on fracking, which is a huge issue in Pennsylvania, I don't think Pennsylvanians are going to buy that. The other thing I've noticed in Pennsylvania, a lot of Hispanics have moved towards Trump. That's contrary to the national narrative. So the reality is this. Pennsylvania is, in my opinion, at this point, the key state in the election. Because if you win Pennsylvania, and that assumes you hold serve in the other, we'll call it 7 swing states, the other 43 states, they go as expected, then you've won a big enchilada there in Pennsylvania. That if Trump can hold serve in Pennsylvania where he was ahead, then really his path is much greater than hers, which is why I think Trump is a slight favorite in the betting markets right now, approximately 55 to 47-ish, somewhere around that level, very similar to where it was yesterday. So, Joe, a combination, for example, in the swing states, when we talk swing states, we're talking Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada, those states. Most polling I've seen still shows Trump up in North Carolina. So if you will it down to 6 states, people are saying, well, Michigan, she's surged ahead. Wisconsin, she's got a slight lead. Okay, maybe true. She might even pull the rabbit out of the hat in either Arizona or Nevada. But if Trump wins Pennsylvania and he wins Georgia and he holds serve in the states he's expected to win, Joe, that's 271 electoral votes, and Donald Trump becomes the 47th president.
Well, the voting laws, everyone's watching the swing states. If anything, they're watching the swing states. You've got law enforcement, you've got attorneys. So it's not going to be the repeat of 2020 where there were so many obvious errors, mistakes, call it what you will, that frustrated the public, because whether it was stolen or defrauded or just all this, rush to make sure Trump didn't get in and people did things that they shouldn't have, machines, the internet, God knows what. We're hearing so much more about that now. I think that's going to get cleared up in the next couple of months. The country can't survive another election where, like Venezuela, where it looks like things aren't done right. So the voting, in America in swing states, I think is going to be cleaned up, and it's going to be. I have faith that and Zuckerberg's not putting his money in right now. But I have faith that all eyes are going to be on the swing states. And something important is in Pennsylvania, and I campaigned over there before. It's a big state, the Keystone State. The African American vote, and I wanted to jump on this now before we get to the fallout of yesterday, but I'm on TikTok spending probably 3 days total reading comments and flipping African Americans more than even Hispanics. And it's not budging with what happened yesterday. They're sticking with Trump. The men are sticking with Trump. Many of the women are coming over that are younger, not the older ones. And I believe Philadelphia and Pittsburgh is happy to Hillary. If the turnout can be suppressed, if they don't vote at all or vote for Trump, coupled with the western part of the state, that he takes Pennsylvania, that she's not going to pull the African American vote. What I'm seeing, and I'm not going to post them, but people saying, yeah, she's not Indian. She was always saying she was Indian and she was an African American. So that debate is going to get opened up big time. And I don't know the total particulars about whether her father was from Jamaica, but he was of Asian descent. All that's going to come out. It's going to be clear. But what I'm seeing is Black Americans don't think she's Black, or she ever promoted being Black. And he's not losing many of the votes. They were horrible to him. And but anyway, I'll let you jump in on that one. That was dynamite.
We're gonna dive into that after the break. But the one thing I will say as we head to break is this: he had that audience in stitches when he made those comments, and that was predominantly a Black audience. So despite everything the media told you, look, I've been around Trump. He's a funny guy. Anyhow. All right, we got to take a break right now. We will dive into the controversy behind that when we come back from break. See you shortly, folks.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to talk about a limited time offer of subscriptions to Patriot.tv and how you can become a member of our Patriot Defenders subscription club and become a member of Patriot.tv. Really, it's America's network. I call it the home of truth. And you can do that for only $9.99 a month. It's a great deal by itself. But what I'm going to walk you through here in these next few seconds is a couple of package deals that we have that are unbelievable. The next membership was the annual membership at $99 that you can save. Right away, you save $20 if you come in at the annual subscription rate. The best deal that I think that people ought to seriously consider is the 2-year membership at $159. And it includes a special edition of my recently released documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. So along with the 2-year membership, the 2-year subscription will send you a DVD combo of the film, plus an option to stream the movie online, as well as exclusive interviews of Tucker Carlson, Devin Nunes, and myself. So go to the home of truth, right? Go to Patriot.tv today. Sign up. Seriously consider the 2-year subscription rate. It's an unbelievable savings. I think it's a total savings of about $70 from just signing up on a monthly or a annual basis. So thank you very much for your support. Patriot.tv is America's new network. Thank you.
And we're back. Thank you for that great endorsement, General Flynn. And folks, go up to the top of the page, click on Patriot Defenders, or you can click on my picture, down somewhere on the web page. It'll take you to where you can subscribe to Patriot.tv. We have some incredible footage for members only that General Flynn filmed on his tour. We're going to have some great content behind it. And then, of course, you're going to be helping the existing programming that we deliver to you every day, where we cut through all that BS of the mainstream media. So become a Patriot Defender and help us as we grow this great channel. Okay, Joe, let's go back to the comment that President Trump made. Now, the media just lambasted him over this. And I've got to admit something. When I heard the quote the first time, I didn't necessarily take any offense to it whatsoever, but I started laughing about it because when he uses the term "she turned black," I mean, you don't just change. I mean, you're born a certain way, and you don't turn black. But the way Trump said it, he literally had that audience in laughing that was there. But of course, the media, no, he's a racist, of course. Now, look, we know that Trump's got a little bravado in him when he says that, he did more for African Americans than any president dating back to Abraham Lincoln. Okay, there's some hyperbole in there. But then, after getting lambasted by the mainstream media, all of a sudden, we hear these clips, whether they're on TikTok or other podcasters or Patriot TV or wherever, where a couple of years ago, Kamala Harris was making this is before she became vice president, was making reference that, hey, she is a Southeast Asian American, or pick your tune. She's got different background. So Although Trump may not have eloquently stated it the right way, Kamala Harris has, based on Democratic identity politics, chosen different boxes to check herself. Now, at the end of the day, is that an issue that should be relevant in this campaign? No. That should have zero effect. But Trump did what he did. He got some laughs. He changed the news cycle. Joe, the question is this now. That was yesterday's news. Now we're moving forward to today. Will that have any effect on the race whatsoever?
I think what I'm watching, I hate to say it sounds crazy. What kind of study is this? You spend hours and hours and read comments, African Americans, and the men, not as many women, but the men, African American men, they were for Trump. The ones that were, they're laughing, they're doubling over, laying down on their couches, laughing because they know in their world that she was always an Indian or Asian and from India, and they know that she is not like Obama was not all black. So it's a thing, it's a black thing in the black world where they think she wasn't. And they'll accept her as that, but they're not sold, they're not going to switch away from Trump because of the issue. He delivered it in a way that said we should look into it. And I looked into it a little bit. I'm sure everyone's going to. And we shouldn't even be talking about this stuff, but it's America today. And her father looks like he was Jamaican, but he was not of Jamaican or African descent. It was an Asian descent. So that's going to come out at the end of the day. I think Trump did what he does. He goes in there and he blows something up, and if he thinks he could win something, he wins it. But he was not mean. Of course, he was not. Is there any way to be politically correct with that issue? The way he was attacked, you're a racist, you're misogynist. I mean, they unloaded on him so bad, and I thought he kept his cool, which I couldn't believe.
Well, they did, but again, I'm gonna give Kamala Harris a little bit of support here because Kamala Harris did go to a predominantly African-American university. She was a member of a predominantly African-American sorority. So again, I'm in the camp, who the hell cares? I mean, we should be past, your race, your color, your ethnicity, well, all that stuff. And to borrow, again, the great Martin Luther King, it should be the quality of the content of your character, not the color of your skin or your ethnic background. And I think America's past all that. And interesting comment, though, Joe, Jim Clyburn has come out and said there is no way Trump is getting 15% of the African-American vote. I'm not going to debate Jim Clyburn on that, especially given that Harris is going to get the overwhelming support of African-American women, probably 90+% of that. But if your theory is correct, particularly among younger African-Americans, Donald Trump could hit that 15% or higher level, particularly with the support that he's getting from
I
men.
think he takes higher. But I think he takes higher, but at the same time, we think the suppression of the vote where they're just not going to vote for her. That's what happened with Hillary in 2016. They didn't come out. They didn't like her, so they stayed home. So that makes a percentage up that we're not factoring.
Well, here's a big thing that a lot of people have not talked about, but with her in this race versus Joe Biden, the question is, what is that going to do to the turnout models? Because my gut feeling tells me this is going to be a heavy turnout election. I mean, there's a lot of people love Donald Trump. There's a lot that don't love him. There's people that will want to vote for a woman president, and there's others that say would never vote for a woman as president. So I think the question is, voter interest is going to be very high, much higher with her in the race than it was with Joe Biden in the race. I mean, it was like a statue, when he was in there. So that's not going to be the place. So Joe, what do you think the turnout's going to be? Because at the end of the day, go ahead.
It's a mail-in ballots. If you don't have mail-in ballots and you can't do mail-in ballots, I don't think the African-American vote turns out unless there's ballot harvesting in those states and they knock on doors and they do all these things to get the vote out. That's what that was always all about. But I think the October surprise is good you talk about turnout. The October surprise is going to be something to do with the financial crisis and the economy. And that's what's going to turn this in Trump's favor. They're not going to trust the Democrats, and they're going to try to pin the tail on the donkey everywhere. But in October, I think we're going to have a correction, whether it's the stock market, whatever it comes our way, and I think the public just can't afford to survive. They'll never make Christmas, and they're going to know it. And so you're going to see a lot of people just really beside themselves. Everyone, what is it? You did the numbers on the last few shows. 60% of the American public can't afford to fix their car. They don't have $1,000 that they can pull together if they had to. This is bad. And so all this, misdirection with race and gender, it'll consume August, but come September, it starts to get cool. People start getting not sober from alcohol, but sober.
Let me tell you, Joe, what people on Wall Street were saying today, because my phone was blowing up when the market was down. Dow was down 600 points. The NASDAQ was down over 2%. The Russell was down over 2%. Gold was hitting up record high, up just under $2,500 an ounce. And what a lot of people are recognizing right now is the United States has a $35 trillion debt. And the 10-year note, which is the benchmark note, that's briefly touched below 4% today. It hasn't been there in a long time, folks. What is that signaling? Well, when you have higher unemployment, first-time unemployment claims rising, a 10-year note falling, global investors selling dollars and putting money into gold, that means there's economic fear in the marketplace. And you had Bitcoin down $5,000. It was from 67,000 down to 62. Stocks across a lot of industries were falling today. Now, is this a correction based upon the technology bubble of artificial intelligence where valuations were stretched to the nth degree? Maybe. Or is this just a garden variety correction? We won't know that. But Joe, if this is something more, meaning the Fed is forced to cut rates in their September meeting, if inflation ticks down below 2.5%, if unemployment claims rise, the problem that whether it's Trump or Harris, the next president, somebody's going to have to deal with this $35 trillion debt. And Trump's policies are through growth, and he's got good policies economically. Harris's policies, as you heard in that you heard in the montage tape. What do you think happens if she limits offshore oil drilling? We're going to have less oil. Well, how the hell are you going to power this country with less oil? And as more and more artificial intelligence comes online, those electricity needs are huge. Now, she's trying to reverse course on fracking. Again, I don't believe that. I think she's a hardcore leftist, Green New Deal. Bear in mind, in that tape, she said, and I tend to listen to people when they say stuff, oh, no. We need to have the Green New Deal. We should do away with the filibuster to approve the Green New Deal. So her policies, Joe, if the economy does start to wobble, and that's a distinct possibility, and what month do we see more major corrections than any month? October. So if we had an economic surprise that was negative, even though Joe Biden's not running, it's the Biden-Harris ticket. Okay, so she will get some of that blame, Joe. And I think what you're talking about is a real possibility.
Well, the other thing is she will then have to answer the questions, and that's where the word salads will come out. She will be caught in some word salads, but I fear also with Iran. I mean, right now we're sitting on something that I don't want to even say things out loud, but who knows what they're up to? Trump took out Soleimani. Israel just took out the head of Hamas and a couple other people. It's assassination, but it's war. So who knows if they can hit the mainland over here? There's sleeper cells, the terrorists that came across the border. We don't know what Iran may do. And again, this is not to be fear-mongering, but they just said it. It's going to be an all-out assault on Israel, which to me always equals New York City, which I fear that, I'm close to that, but there's millions of people there and suitcase bombs, God knows what. Who knows what these people will do? And this, again, it is the Biden administration allowing 3 proxy wars. And this is Can you blame her? You can't even blame her because she was just sitting there as a vice president doing nothing. But she has to own the record of her predecessor, and she won't have answers for this. And I think when she can't answer, and when the media can't prop her up, and there's chaos and there's fear, they're going to look to Trump just like they looked to Reagan. That's what's coming. This is Jimmy Carter. It's Jimmy Carter administration versus Reagan, and coming in, and they already know what they got with Trump. It's better than Reagan because they already know what they had. And that's what you hear on TikTok and Instagram. You hear all these people go, we know what we had. What do you mean he's a crazy dictator? He didn't do that when he was there. And now that the cases are all falling apart across his whole thing, the cases are falling apart. So he's not a criminal anymore. And that was all fake. So the general public is wondering what's going on.
Yep. All right, we're going to take our final break. But when we come back, we're going to do some deep dive behind these numbers and give you a forecast of where we think things are heading in this race. Be back shortly.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most precious assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
And we're back. Hey, Joe, the Americans who were released as part of this hostage swap, some of them are going to be landing in Washington, then they'll go on to San Antonio for medical help. But I'm understanding that both President Biden and Vice President Harris are going to get a pretty damn good photo opportunity this evening. And, you know, rightfully so. What type of impact, again, Joe, is this going to have on the race, if any? Because, you know, some of these people had been held in Russia on, no pun intended, folks, trumped up charges. And some of them have been held for, as Paul Whelan had been held for over 5 years. The Wall Street Journal reporter had been held over a year. The Russian dissident who was a U.S. citizen with residences in Germany and the U.S., how they had to move him to a medical hospital. His condition had deteriorated. So, you know, it is a joyous occasion for the families, some of which were at the White House, Joe. But again, this is going to be a positive thing for the vice president here. Your thoughts on, you know, a fairly remarkable. Go ahead.
If she can inherit a positive note, she needs to be able to inherit the negative ones. And that was what the Republicans should say. Listen, God bless her, God bless America, because this is part of what we do. But if Kamala Harris wants to get a photo op and be there and say she claims to be part of the solution, then she needs to be part of all of the Biden administration. If the Republicans spin it properly, not to diss the activity of the United States government and what's happened, that should always be and we should all appreciate that regardless, but she's stepping into a place where she wants to just have it one. She can't have it just one way. She has to have it both ways.
Yeah, and no, we do want to give credit for the people in the U.S. government, whether it was CIA, FBI negotiators, the country of Turkey. This is a very complex operation. The sad thing about it is we exchanged hardened criminals who perpetrated horrific deeds against individuals and countries in exchange for people that did nothing wrong. But that's part of the game that gets played. And you know what? At the end of the day, I think the vast majority of the American public will support this action that President Biden and his administration did accomplish. All right, let me shift subjects here, Joe. J.D. Vance has come under a lot of criticism from the media. However, something has happened. Kellyanne Conway leaked some comments about she wasn't so happy with what he's done. But polling-wise, he seems to be helping Trump with rural voters. Joe Visconti, was the J.D. Vance story overblown? Is he going to stay on the ticket with Trump? What are your thoughts on Vance at this point?
Oh yeah. There's no doubt. That's going all the way. The doubters out there, the media, I've read everything, all the different platforms, and it's just clickbait. It's anything to draw people in, and I think he's the right age. He was a U.S. Marine, and he's got a great story, and he's at the right age, and the public wants that. And that leads us to the next question we haven't brought up yet. Well, who's Kamala going to pick? Right. Does she pick Shapiro, who's older, or does she pick Kelly from Arizona, the senator over there, who's an older white dude? My gut tells me she's going to pick Shapiro, regardless of what that could mean to Minnesota and Michigan with the Muslim vote that they could lose. She's married to a Jewish gentleman, and he looks really sharp. Shapiro is really sharp. So, are they going to take her right on to take Pennsylvania and go that way? My gut says that. But that means JD up against Shapiro, governor against a U.S. senator. He's very articulate. I think that hasn't started today. He was at the border. He was eloquent speaking about it. And he wasn't nasty talking about what the Biden administration has done. He delivered the information in a news program, and he really put it out there, what happened specifically. Even Trump can't articulate that, just what we need to do and go back to the policies, finish the wall. And so he hasn't begun to really earn the points we need from him. These events have been moving so quickly, one thing to the next to the next. So the public's got to get some time to digest what's occurred. And I think that's the month of August.
Yeah, well, I think you're right about that. But I mean, here's the thing. If she picks Shapiro, she's going to offend the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party. There's just no doubt about it. Now, Trump would have to really make up a lot of ground to win Minnesota. Bear in mind, last election, he only lost it by 2 points. So, I mean, it's competitive, but Democrats, man, it's been a long time since a Republican has won Minnesota. I think, God, even when Ronald Reagan won 49 states, the one he didn't win was Fritz Mondale's Minnesota. So the question is, if he picks Shapiro, will that really irritate the progressives? Will they sit it out, or will they vote for Harris anyhow? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know this: if they pick Shapiro,
I think they may do that, though. I think they may do that, and what all Shapiro has to say is 2-state solution and a peace deal, ceasefire. And he'll say that, and he'll say that during the colleges going back. So if he's the one who's picked, he'll be the vice president before, but. They'd have to do a deal with Antifa and BLM and the rest of the rioters that are out there, keep them on a leash until the convention is over. But he could do that. We need a 2-state solution. I'm Jewish. We need a 2-state solution, and he'll just blame Israel. But I think they go all in with that. I think they go in because they need Pennsylvania so bad.
Pennsylvania's a key state. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I think whoever wins Pennsylvania becomes the next 47th president. But again, Joe, you mentioned the convention coming up and colleges, students going back to class, and it's going to be hot in Chicago in August. And the Hamas wing of the Democratic Party is going to be protesting and you're gonna see the Palestinian flags, you're gonna see the face mask. I mean, it's going to happen. Okay, now will it happen inside the convention hall or will it be outside? I don't know. It's hard to predict. But if anyone, look, the events of the last 30 days, I tell you, anything could happen here. And bear this in mind, Joe, and you made reference to this a few minutes ago. The leader of Hamas taken out in Iran, Hezbollah's leader taken out in an attack in Lebanon. Okay. The number 2 guy at Hamas, they discovered he was taken out back in March. So there has been an accuracy, and Trump took out Soleimani. You never forget that. He's sitting there talking to President Xi of China and leans over and says, hey, we just, launched an attack to take out Soleimani. Similarly, the Iranians have a hit out on Trump right now. So let's not kid ourselves. It works both ways. What type of retaliation will the Iranian regime do against Israel? Well, Benjamin Netanyahu has already warned them, don't do it because it's going to be worse off for you if you do. The question is, what kind of restraint will they exhibit? Joe, I don't know. But let me go, let me shift sub. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Joe.
No, that's okay. I've been worried about it. I've really been worried about it. This is high stakes like never before. We're so used to so much conflict. We think, oh, nothing until a 9/11 happens. Then, whoa, they're just not trying to bomb the World Trade Center basement. All of a sudden, something comes out of the blue. These people think differently. They're angry. And this is war. I mean, Israel is at war. Come on. And they have every right to defend themselves. But the Democrats are trying to play both sides. So it's not good. And I fear between this month and the election, financial problems, issues, God knows what. We got to pray. Pray.
Well, Israel's facing a 3-front war. They're dealing with Hamas in Gaza. They're dealing with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they're dealing with the Iranians. So, I mean, you call it what you want, but to me, it sure looks and smells like a 3-front war. I want to go back to the VP thing real quick, Joe, because there are a couple other names she's thrown out. Obviously, Senator Kelly of Arizona, possibility. I don't know. I don't know what adds more value to the ticket, whether it would be Shapiro or Kelly. The governor of Minnesota, some people are throwing his name out. The governor of my original home state of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, his name's being thrown out. But if I had to bet tonight, I think you're right. I think it would be Shapiro. But there's other names being thrown out too. Pete Buttigieg's name has been prominently mentioned. We talked about this on yesterday's show. He is being vetted. There are some of the most progressive members of the party telling that Kamala Harris, she should pick Buttigieg, or she should pick another woman, or she should pick another African-American to go on the ticket. Cedric Richmond, one of Biden's campaign managers from Louisiana. His name's thrown about. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, you're right, Joe. I think it will be Shapiro. So we got about a minute and a half left. All right, let's figure out where this race, as of today, Thursday, where are we sitting and where we're going? In my opinion, Joe, Donald Trump has a slight lead. I mean, I went back and looked. In the 2016 election, he got 45.9% of the vote. In 2020, he got 46.8%. He's slated right now, polling, again, if it's correct, to get 47.5%. If Donald Trump if he can hit the 48% number, he will win this election because of the fact some of the votes going to be scattered between Kennedy and other parties. Joe, minute left. How do you see it right now? And what about going forward?
Trump takes Nevada. Trump takes Arizona. Trump loses Georgia. Trump wins Pennsylvania, and Michigan loses Wisconsin and Minnesota. And he takes, it'll take a month to figure out if he ever wins Virginia. But by then, a lot of factors are going to be at play. And I think he does much better in the Electoral College than anyone's giving him credit for. I think Kamala wins the popular vote if this ballot harvesting continues. There's just more Democrats. New York, California, there's 10 million more. I mean, if they do that and they grab the ballots of people who don't even want to vote, but the ballots at their house and the Democrat machine is working the streets in the swing states, you're going to get, in the blue states, you're going to get them out.
Well, Joe, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your input from the great state of Connecticut. Folks, a little treat tomorrow. We have the founder of Western Journal, Floyd Brown's going to be our guest. Floyd is also the campaign manager of Kerry Lake. So thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening today. Election Edge, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. See you tomorrow.